Good day, I'm Jerica Adalid and I'm going to discuss what is Environmental Impact Assessment or the AIA. So we have the question here, what is Environmental Impact Assessment? Environmental Impact Assessment or AIA can be defined as the study to predict the effect of a proposed activity or project on the environment as a tool used to identify the environmental, social, and economic impacts of a project prior to decision making. EIA systematically examines both the beneficial and adverse consequences of the project and ensures that these effects are taken into account during project design. It helps to identify possible environmental effects of the proposed project, proposes measures to mitigate adverse effects, and predicts whether there will be significant adverse environmental effects even after the mitigation is implemented. The stages of an AIA process will depend upon the requirements of the country or donor. However, most AIA processes have a common structure and the application of the main stages is a basic standard of good practice. The AIA process, we have screening, scoping, impact analysis, mitigation, reporting, review of AIA, decision making, on post monitoring. Screening, first stage of AIA, which determines whether the proposed project requires an AIA and if it does, then the level of assessment required. Second, scoping. This stage also defines the boundary and time limit of the study. Third, the impact analysis. This stage of AIA identifies and predicts the likely environmental and social impact of the proposed project and evaluates the significance. Next is mitigation. This step in AIA recommends the actions to reduce and avoid the potential adverse environmental consequences of development activities. Next is reporting. This stage presents the result of AIA in a form of a report to the decision-making body and other interested parties. Next is review of AIA. It examines the adequacy and effectiveness of the AIA report and provides the information necessary for decision making. Next is decision making. It decides whether the project is rejected, approved, or needs further change. Post-monitoring. This stage comes into play once the project is commissioned. It checks to ensure that the impacts of the project do not exceed the legal standards and implementation of the mitigation measures are in the manner as described in the AIA report. History of Environmental Impact Assessment. AIA is one of the successful policy innovations of the 20th century for environmental conservation. 37 years ago, there was no AIA, but today, it is a formal process in many countries and is currently practiced in more than 100 countries. AIA as a mandatory regulatory procedure originated in the early 1970s with the implementation of the National Environment Policy Act, NEPA 1969 in the US. EIA first implemented. The present system, the Philippine Environmental Impact Assessment System, was formally established in 1978 with the enactment of Presidential Decree No. 1586. Evolution and history of AIA. Pre-1970, project review based on the technical engineering and economic analysis. In early mid-1970s, AIA introduced by NEPA in 1970 in US. Late 1970 and early 1980s, more formalized guidance, other industrial and developing countries introduced formal AIA requirements. Mid-1980s to end of decade. In Europe, Directive on EIA establishes basic principle and procedural requirements for all member states. increasing efforts to address cumulative effects. World Bank and other leading international aid agencies establish EIA requirements, spread of EIA process in Asia. In 1990s, increased use of GIS and other information technologies, sustainability, principle, and global issues receive increased attention. India also adopted the AIA formally. Formulation of environment assessment legislation by many developing countries, rapid growth in environment assessment training. In conclusion, AIA plays a crucial role in protecting the environment and promoting sustainable development. By identifying potential impacts and proposing mitigation measures, it ensures that projects are designed and implemented in an environmentally responsible manner. And source from International Study of the Effectiveness of Environmental Assessment, Final Report Environmental Assessment in a Changing World, prepared by Barry Sadler, John 1996. And that's all. Thank you for listening.